Hey, I'm Decathlon Gamer. Welcome back to F1 Manager. This is episode 25, and it's the start of a new season. We did our off season in the last episode, and we begin with Bahrain, second time through now, and I'm really excited for what is to come. I did look at car comparisons a little more in detail, not just grid average, but team by team. I think we're still ninth. However, we have closed the gap massively on the closest competitors up the grid and left Aston Martin fairly far behind, I would think. They seem to be a pretty distant 10th right now, and we are now close to the likes of McLaren and AlphaTauri and Haas. We just haven't quite overtaken them yet, but we'll see what we can do in a competitive scenario, pushing harder, doing more. Can we beat them on a regular basis at most tracks?
Welcome to the archipelago of Formula One. Bahrain might have a small land footprint, but it's showing its big spirit right now in the grandstands. Either way, it's time for another fantastic weekend of Grand Prix racing. The Bahrain International Circuit is a challenging track, and the cars routinely have to brake from high gear to low to take the narrow turns. With the need for downhill braking, the risk of locking up is one drivers will need to manage. It's all about focus and balance to get victory here. At this early stage in the season, there are still plenty of opportunities for things to change. In this sport, there simply are no guarantees. So, without further ado, let's get started.
So I'm intending on spending a little more time in practice this episode than previous for, well, a few reasons. First off, we're already into the race weekend, only a couple minutes into the episode, so we have more time to work with. Two, and this is a bigger one, we're into the season. New season. There's been car development during the off season. All the teams are going to be a little bit different. There was research that went into the year, so there's comparisons to be had. Now, it's not going to be drastically different. It was all minor changes. Some teams would have committed to it more than others. We were amongst those, though, so how much have we gained? Well, we'll find out in time. Now, starting out, though, I will run a representative pace at some point during this weekend, but not starting out. For me, that's one of the hardest corners in all of Formula One right there. That turn 9-10 sequence. That little off-camber... I guess it wouldn't be off camber, it would be on camber, right? A little bit on camber, downhill, corner 9, so corner braking, heading into a more than 90-degree turn 10 is just super tough. But anyway, as we are the first ones out on track, let's speed things up. This is one of the other interesting things about this first race is car part knowledge, acclimatization. Starts at 0. It's a new year. So that's going to impact things. It makes the drivers and the cars a little less on it for the first race weekend. But let's speed things up as we make our way through this first run. And I want to have this discussion because I'm seeing a lot of it. If you have not seen or heard as of yet,
Sounds like a spin.
The FIA has released next year's Formula One calendar. And unfortunately, there's been a lot of, well, F1 Twitter doing what F1 Twitter does, I suppose, on a regular basis, but there's been a lot of really, really negative feedback. Fairly Eurocentric negative feedback that, well, not terribly pleasant. Let's talk about why it's really not fair or deserved, as we just saw Albon on the side of the track there.
Here's the replay.
After a brief spin on the final turn exit.
Oh,
starting.
Dear, oh dear, oh dear.
Maybe
the
not.
Car's
That's
just gone.
Not looking like the front straight.
The team are devastated.
Well, anyway, let's take Bahrain, where we're at, as an example. We have a country with a population of under 2 million. We have neighboring countries here with similar populations of under 2 million. The largest country in the Middle East that has a Formula One race has a population of under 10 million. They pay their money, they've got their races. Hardly anybody bats an eyelash even when there's unsafe conditions at some of those races. Then, a country like Italy has 2 races, but it's not a massive country. I think it's 30 million. It's about 10%. 10% the size of the U.S. 380 million people in the U.S. And this is why it's negative. The U.S., we're not perfect, okay? I am from the U.S. Believe me. I won't for an instant say that we are the greatest country on the planet, that we are the best at everything, blah, blah, blah. No, you're not going to get that from me. Others might try to claim that, but I certainly don't. We are flawed. We are a wealthy nation. We do have a population of 380 million people, which is roughly 3/4 of the size of Europe's population. Landmass, we are twice the size of Europe. We have 50 states. Europe has 44 countries. European-wide or EU, I don't know which, but it's 44. One of those two numbers. We aren't pushing at all, by the way. Back to the game for a second. We are not pushing at all. We are barely driving, and we are nearly faster than Stroll. That's a good sign. That is a good sign, and usually our first run is pretty far off the pace that we're going to be setting later on. We're looking pretty good with the Aston Martins here. I made a mistake. Jack Doohan was supposed to be in the car, FP1, all season long. We didn't get it this weekend. We will get it, though. Europe, how many races on the calendar is it? I mean, we have the 22 on the calendar here because Russia was excluded. We have 22 here. So 2 are in the US, right? Mexico, Brazil, that's 4. You've got 3 in the Middle East. You have Japan, Australia, China. 10 from my count. That's 12. 12 races in Europe with a population similar to the US, with an area, the give of one, the take of the other, with 50 different states. Whether you actually like Miami as a track or not is irrelevant at this point.
When you have it, give me feedback on balance.
Whether you like Vegas is impossible for you to honestly say right now because you have not seen a race there as of yet. The track has not been put together. Yes, some of us, myself included, have seen the layout, have seen the proposed track. But until it's actually put together and until the cars get out there and run in FP1, run qualifying, run their first race, until we've seen it, until we've been there and done that, hold your judgment. But to have 3 races in a country of 380 million people, that's 1 race per 120 something million people. 1 race for a population of 120 million. Spa, Zandvoort, combined, Belgium and the Netherlands have a population of less than 30 million. Okay, so the Eurocentric, why not Germany? Why not Germany? But why the attack on the US is completely unnecessary just because you want a race back in Germany. I agree. Germany deserves a race. There's 2 or 3 very iconic tracks that deserve a spot on the calendar. Why do we have to take, a stab at the US? Because it's 3. It's 50 states, people. It's a population almost equivalent to all of Europe. And we absolutely have the finances to put that on and to, deserve that spot. When Monaco has a population of less than 40,000, is the audience that comes to watch that race all from Monaco? Obviously not. Okay. But if we're talking about regional, geographic, let's put to bed the criticism, the attacks on the US. They're not necessary, and they're definitely not deserved. The US is not going to suddenly have 12 races on the calendar like Europe. Could it? Based on those factors, based on the finances, based on the population, it easily could. Nobody's saying it should. 3 sounds like that. That's it. That's the limit. 1 to the west, 1 to the east, 1 in the center. That's covering your regions. That's a lot of travel. It's a lot more expensive to travel in the US than it is in Europe. Traveling to Austin, for me, was going to be a real challenge. And I've never been able to make that trip. Traveling to Vegas is actually pretty doable as I live on the West Coast. Going to that race, which we have to, by the way, have a race at 1 a.m. to have Vegas on the calendar so that it's doable morning in Europe. Again, with this is what we get to deal with. I get races all the time at 2, 3, 4 in the morning. Sometimes I will watch those live if they matter that much to me and if my calendar works out with me. Usually I have to watch a replay in the morning when I wake up. But if you enjoy the sport, you enjoy the sport, and you're going to follow the sport regardless of what time the race is on. If you enjoy the sport, you're going to follow the sport, whether they're racing in Vegas or Monaco or Abu Dhabi. Please be patient. Give Miami a chance. It was not that bad of a race, though people whined and whined. Or ran wide there on turn 14. And give Vegas a chance. You might like it. And you might not. Some of the tracks haven't been great. If FP1 is any indicator, which it's probably not a great indicator, but it's going to give us at least a bit of an idea, Red Bull looks to be the fastest. Ferrari looks to still be second quickest, and those two are probably a ways ahead. But then Mercedes and Alfa Romeo are almost identical. Bottas on hard compound was only 0.6 of a second off. They could be number 3 right now with Mercedes 4. Lando Norris put in a pretty decent time there, despite the McLaren not looking great, but this could be a track-specific thing where the Haas was also right there, but Magnussen on the soft compound might have been pushed a little bit harder, possibly. AlphaTauri, Vettel only riding on the hard, so take that time with a grain of salt. For sure. Yeah, that's not looking like a very good time, is it? Gasly, the other Alpine, not looking like the best of times. So maybe, just maybe, Alpine's a little off. But from what I saw, Alpine is better than our car in every single way. Not drastically, but it's better in every single category. So I think competing with Alpine is going to be probably a bit of a stretch. But I think you're looking at the usual suspects. And then Aston Martin, 0.7 of a second off. 0.7 of a second off. And we were just behind Aston Martin. 2 high fuel runs with everything turned way down, something nobody else is doing. Probably, I would say it's costing us a good second. At least close to it. Meaning, yeah, our times are actually looking to be maybe competitive now. At least for midfield. So I've already accepted a 96% for Porsche, and right now he's out running to get the track acclimatization and part knowledge up. And Albon just came back with optimal, so we'll take a look at it, see kind of where he's at, and then we're going to go into at least getting a brief test of the car's pace. Setup confidence 100%. Wow, we got it all the way. Okay, so that's the second 100% that I've had. As our staff has gotten that little bit better, our runs are going more smoothly, and we're finding that setup a little bit faster. It did help that I had a pretty good start on our first setup this time on our gas. But car parts knowledge at 70. Track acclimatization is nearly done for Albin. I would not need to send him out for more than a few laps, but because of the car parts, we do want to keep running a bit longer yet. Now we do have 11 laps worth of life left on these tires. I want to take the fresh ones. We're due an update, and I think the update already came. I believe it came this morning because a lot of my settings on the game when I loaded the game up were a bit different. So I think I may have unnoticed, but it was due before the end of the week, and I'm recording this on Thursday. So I think it may have come. And with the update, there should be time loss on the degradation of tires and not just once they fall off the cliff. That was supposed to be part of this update. So I'm going to wait till we have the new softs to turn up the engine just a little bit. We're not going to go flat out. We're not going to push for qualifying. I just want to see where we're at pace-wise on a fresh set of tires, just run in normal race pace. So we'll use up, I'd say, maybe 7 laps worth, maybe 6. We'll do 6. 6 more laps on these. So I've just sent both drivers out. We're going to make a 6-lap run, and Albin needs to get turned up. There we go. So we're not turning it up high. We're just going to go normal. We're just going to drive normal for one little 6-lap run just to see where our pace is at compared to everybody else. And Pourchaire's first lap comes in less than a second off of Leclerc. We have gained that much ground. Have we really gained that much ground? Let's see where Albin's time comes in at. Not pushing, right? Yeah. We're just cruising. Race pace. Nothing aggressive. Just running normal. Pourchaire betters his time even further. 9th fastest at the moment. Albin's first lap, which I think he was partway in Sector 1 when we turned it up. First lap goes 18th. Shaves off a second. I thought we were losing a second, and then when I kind of saw where the times were going, I was like, yeah, maybe a little more than a second. I was thinking like 1.2. Not close to 1.5, because there's Albin. There's Albin right on Pourchaire with his second lap. So they are 8 tenths behind Leclerc, who just went a bit faster as we're getting these guys to run a little harder. Track acclimatization 100%. That's Pourchaire's 6 laps. I'm going to turn it back down. We're going to give him another run out there. We'll wait for qualifying to see where we're really at, but looking pretty good. So it looks to me like there's something going on with the performance bonus that is cumulative about all 3, and it's not just down to each individual area, because Pourchaire at 98% on track acclimatization should be the 3 out of 3 points. Setup confidence, as we already know and have experimented with, 96% should get the maximum points for there. And car parts knowledge is identical for both cars at 86%. Yet Albin is getting the 15 out of 15 performance bonus. Pourchaire is only going to get the 14 out of 15. And all he is missing compared to Albin is 2% and 4%. Overall, 6% less. Overall. But in areas that should have gotten the max points. So, the more you know. All right, Hamilton quickly pulls out just behind us. Leclerc is pulling out in front of us, and here comes Ocon right in the middle of our way for our flying lap. It looks like Albin got held up pretty bad there. Yeah, Albin loses a second and a half. Pourchaire, we don't even know if that was a clean run, but it's 9 tenths of a second off of Leclerc. Let's go ahead and retool and go out again on the same compound. Albin in particular really needs to get out there soon. There's a lot of cars on track, so it's harder to get that clean lap now than it is then, but we'll get out there. Albin also following behind. So Porsche right now is ahead of Ocon and Vettel. Vettel no longer at Aston Martin, that's an AlphaTauri. And we're ahead of Ocon in an Alpine. So did he get a clean lap in or not? Hard to say. Right now, the front five are just your front five. Verstappen goes to the top. Red Bull is quickest. Looks like Perez might have gotten blocked off a little bit. I'm guessing the other times are fairly representative of what they should be. Already getting blocked off here, but moving past, that's not going to hurt. That one's not going to hurt for Porsche there. Has to go to the inside there. Might have lost time making his way around the Haas. Maybe not. So riding on board here with Albin. Second lap here in Q1. Again, not getting a clean look the first time. Had to go around a Haas here on this lap. It did not look to affect him. Certainly not in the way that we were affected before. And I think we're going to be okay. Nobody in front of us is holding us up too much. Porsche up to P9 and Albin up to P9. So almost identical times. 1/1000th of a second, 1 millisecond between them is all, and we are just off Sonoda's pace. We're ahead of Guan Yu Zhou, Gasly, Ocon, Alonso, and Vettel. Looks like we've got a decent chance of getting out of Q1. I don't know if we're going to quite be in Q3 type territory. We seem to be a little bit off that sort of pace. But it does look like we've got a pretty good chance of making a number of Q2 sessions this season if at this track, which is not necessarily about high-speed corners. We need to double check what is the circumstances for this track. Quick look at Bahrain. We're looking at straight sectors, a lot of straights. Overall pace is still not our thing, though it's much improved from where it was last season. 1, 2, 3 medium speed corners. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4-ish fast corners sections. And then the part not good for us is we're looking at 4 low speed sections. So yeah, this is not a terrible track for us, but it's definitely not one of our stronger tracks. And yet right now we've got a very competitive 12th and 13th. We're gonna save. Do we want to save for Q2? No, we're gonna use a fresh set for one run, and then we will reuse that for Q2. We need to make sure we get out of Q1, and that's not a guarantee right now. We are 0.8 of a second better than the Aston Martins. That's how much ground we've made. We've gone from slower than them. Remember, first third of the season before that first underfloor upgrade came in, we were always qualifying behind Vettel in the Aston Martin last year, and would often get one driver, Albin, ahead of Stroll, but we were otherwise, on paper, slower than the Aston Martins. As time went on, we took care of that. We were better. Did I already switch this? Yes, I did. All right, here we go. Cars are heading out. That's about 7 to 9. There's about 14, 15 now, 16. We're still seeing at least one McLaren. There's the other McLaren. There's at least one more still parked in an Alpine. That's probably the last one. Yes, the other Alpine's already out. I think we're out last, and I think we're okay. We are a little bit off from those guys. We've got 2 minutes to get our warm-up lap in. 30 seconds to go. It looks like we're going to be there in time heading into the final corner now. 20 seconds to go. Porsche approaching the line. He's good to go. And Albin, 15 seconds. Okay, we're getting our lap in. And with everybody else going full gas, we will not have to worry about anybody getting in our way. So that's good. Let's go ahead and ride on with Albin here as he makes his way through. And let's also get a look at these guys on their timings as we go on. We'll just look at ours to see where we are. Porsche yellow in Sector 1, so he is a little off the pace. Albin is up on his Sector 1 time previously. Sonoda ahead of us. Alonso moves up. Alonso moves up in the Alfa Romeo. It's easily one of the fastest ones, so he all along should have been ahead of us. There's that turn 9, turn 10. That did not look good from Albin. That looked awfully slow through there. Vettel goes ahead for now, so we do have work to do. Schumacher and Stroll are finished and well down. And we are in trouble at the moment. We are going to have to improve times. Porsche, green in Sector 2. Very much what he needed, because we are right now looking to be out if we don't improve our time. Albin was yellow in Sector 2, so neither one looking great at the moment. And we are down to that 9th position as a constructor at the moment. Do we improve? We don't need much. Porsche moves up, but not out of Q1. He's 16th. And Albin, 17th. We're ahead of Vettel. Ahead of Vettel in the Alpha Tauri. We are just behind the Haas. There is our authentic pace. Still, we will get out of quite a few Q1s this season, even without major upgrades coming, because this track with those 4 slow corners, it's a weaker track for us. It's a weaker track, not weakest, but weaker. It's definitely below what our average would be. If you put us up to average, we're probably P14, P15, maybe 15, 16. You know, all you need to do is beat that 1 to 2 more cars to get one or both drivers out of Q1. For now, 16th, 17th is still a huge step in the right direction. On merit, on normal pace, at most tracks, we were not putting in these kind of times. It was the wet ones where we were able to, get out of Q1. I don't think we ever got out of Q1, regardless of track, even on the tracks that were best suited to us.
The grid is packed and there's electricity in the air, but there's no surprises in that. It's race day.
Qualifying went well for Williams, as attested by their strong position on the grid. Now it's all about finding that edge for the race itself. Haas proved quite resourceful during qualifying. That puts them in a very good position to make the most of this race start. The weather is beautifully clear tonight, which is one less problem for the teams to face. Of course, that doesn't take anything away from the unpredictability of this race.
And there's going to be a lot for the teams to handle. So will the drivers and their cars be able to cope with the pressure? Let's find out right here at the Bahrain Grand Prix.
Before entering the race, here's my thoughts. Could we be in the points? Maybe. Would I love to be in the points? Yes. But I'm thinking of going a more conservative approach in this race for a couple of reasons. One, new parts, new season, a lot could happen. It could get chaotic. Now, last year did not. The first few races, there was no DNFs at all. As the season went on, we saw plenty. But I think if I push, the more I push, the more mistakes we're making. I want to see what happens if we let the drivers do their thing and drive and kind of see where we're at. I'm just curious, what is our pace compared to others? Can we get in the DRS train without going crazy, without pushing, without putting more wear on the engine? We'll see if I can. We'll see if I can go more conservative with the approach. at least in the back of my mind, that's what I'm thinking. Right now, two-stopper for both guys. Two-stopper no matter where you go. Tires will not last, even if you go medium hard. My alternate strategy, if we do end up pushing a bit more, is to pit sooner and go to the hard and then back to the soft later, with a little more time on the hard in between and pushing on the softs. We'll see how the race kind of shapes up as we're going along. And if we switch one of these guys to that.
Clear skies tonight, with the drivers having now arrived at their grid positions. Looking at the Williams now. With their starting position in the back 10, they'll have their work cut out for them. And then we've got Alex Albon. Slower than most yesterday, so today they'll be starting from the bottom half of the grid. The teams are ready to go. Here we go with the Bahrain Grand Prix. And it's lights out and away we go.
And we're racing in a new season, Season 2 of our Williams Return to Glory series. And, well, it's not glory and wins, but we have a much more competitive car here at the start of this season with a slow entry to turn 1 as the field is all bunched up. But we are in our starting grid spot as of right now with Albon ahead of Porsche. And let's go ahead and go straight into the more conservative approach with Porsche right on the heels. And let's also tell him not to fight the teammate, stay behind for now. Let's also make sure we are not wasting ERS. There you go, down to neutral. Albon, let's see what happens if we put the McLaren under pressure for a little bit, but we won't push long or hard on this one. One lap at the most. And then we'll wait until DRS is active and go from there. For the moment, we are easily keeping up. Meanwhile, the Aston Martins are already struggling to hold Vettel's wheel behind us. Going neutral. Save that ERS, that's the one that I'm most concerned about. As we actually just had a very brief look to the inside on Ricardo. A lot of teams with different drivers. The big 3 teams are unchanged. This year, Alfa Romeo is looking to make that a big 4, and they have added Alonso, as Sainz has taken the race lead here. And there was that end of lap 1 where I think it's time to back off a little bit.
Increase.
And let's settle in, at least for now. It looks like we're going to be very capable of making some overtakes, though. All-French driver lineup for the all-French Alpine team, with Gasly replacing Alonso there. And they, I think, from what I saw, they look like a very strong 15. Well clear. So you got 4 teams pulling away a bit competitively compared to the rest of the field. Alpine has a strong 5th option. I think points-wise, they're going to regularly be hanging out around 9th and 10th in a lot of race weekends. And then it's a big struggle, it's a big battle through everybody else for who's going to compete occasionally with the Alpines for points. Norris is strong as a driver, but the McLaren is a bit weak as a car. The Haas, the AlphaTauris, and it looks like myself are going to regularly be battling it out for that best of the rest and take advantage from mistakes or DNFs from anybody in that top 10 to get in there and get the last of those points. And then there's the Aston Martins, and you can see just how far off the pace they are. Already 3 seconds behind Vettel. Lap 7, and Guan Yu Zhou has spun out. And that's going to drop him down the order. But we have exactly 4 trains on track. So let's take a look at what you have. You have your front 6. Only 2 of... Because now it's a big 4 teams. Now that Alfa Romeo is... They're definitely not the fastest. But they have a competitive enough car to be with those guys. And so what we have... Alonso lost the wheel of Bottas, got out of that DRS range, and started dropping back. He was holding up Russell, who eventually went past, but then Alonso got back around him. So they are 5.5 seconds down on the front train. So Russell and Alonso battling back and forth with the 2 Alpines, and then Norris and Magnussen hanging on to the back end of that train. The third train has been led by Tsunoda for a while, as Vettel just went past him somehow in that other AlphaTauri. And Albon is having looks at these guys without any pushing at all. So we are in a great state right now. Guan Yu Zhou was just in front of Schumacher and Stroll after his spin, but he has pulled away from them. Yellow flag, sector 2, and Guan Yu Zhou has spun or ran wide once again. It is another spin for Guan Yu Zhou. So the way that things are shaping up right now, here's my thoughts on what I should do. We're at the back of a train, cruising along. We're not pushing at all. And what's the point to really push right now anyway? Right, we're in this DRS train, and we're not going to escape this train. If we get to the front of it, we're not going to drive away from these guys. We don't quite have that much pace. We are a lot more competitive with them, and that's the thing, is we're not having to push to stay in the DRS train. We are easily cruising in the DRS train, so we're saving fuel, we're saving tires. So my plan is to wait for this group to start pitting, and when they do, we should have some extra life left. We're going to extend and try to go for the overcut. Now, overcuts are a lot harder to do than an undercut, but why would we bother pitting early and try to come out ahead when we have the extra tires, we have the extra fuel life? My thought is to wait for them to pit and then push and try to go for the overcut by extending. Whoa. That was a close call. That looked like a very close call there between Albon and Vettel ahead of him. We seem to almost get sideways trying to avoid him, and we are over a second back all of a sudden as a result. Go a little more aggressive. And you can see we are slowly gaining tire-wise. Not by much, though. This is a track that just seems to be a bit hard on tires, so there might not be much to this attempt at an overcut. Even if it's only a lap, that's pushing this all back by a lap, giving us that opportunity to have some extra tire life at the end of the race. And here we go. Pits are beginning, and we've still got, at least 2 to 3 laps that we can manage to go here. Yes, Zhou has pit. We've got 5 cars. Magnussen into the pits. Ricardo into the pits. He's peeling off. So there's the first, but we're still in our train. We're still behind 2 of these guys, so no need to attack yet. And somebody came out just right between us here. Bottas. Bottas has come out behind us. That actually could be really good if you can get on Bottas's wheel and follow him, as he's definitely faster. That could help our idea of the undercut. Schumacher into the pits as well.
Schumacher has pitted.
All right, it's time. So both Vettel and Tsunoda peel off, leaving us to our own devices. It would have been nice, if Bottas was just in front of us so we could follow him, but that's okay. Albon, at least, it's time for him to push on and lead this trade on a little bit further. Porsche. We'll analyze where we're at as we get into the later stage of this lap and determine whether we need to pit this lap or later. Bottas has gone by. Bottas has gone by. Okay. Now we don't even have to. Now we can just extend and follow Bottas as he's going to have better pace. He passed us easily the moment we tried to drive harder. Albon's going to pit first, though. We cannot double stack. We've got to think about the fact that we're going to possibly fall off that cliff. So 34%. I think we need to pit Albon this lap and not next. But how bad is it going to be once we fall off the cliff, right? Probably not that bad. Probably not that bad. We're going to wait one more lap. Oops, we're going past Bottas again. Not ideal. Not what I was going for. But we are coming in this lap, so go ahead and attack. Wow, look how many drivers are opting for the hard compound and not the medium. There's not too many that have opted for the medium. Sainz and Alonso is it so far. It's going to give us a bit of a pace advantage over some of these guys being on the medium compound. Bottas with DRS. It's going to squeeze by again. Go back to saving here.
So lift and coast level 3.
Attack there.
Yep, copy.
.67. Good stop for Albon. That's pretty decent for the start of the year. We know we got faster as last year went on. And Porsche now into that 30%, but he's also into that window, so let's go ahead and pit. So Albon has come out in P14 ahead of Ricciardo, ahead of Tsunoda, ahead of Vettel, and on a different compound. But what is our gap? He is 0.7 of a second ahead of these guys. Can we get away from them and get out of the DRS trade? Or can Porsche come out in between and Porsche block those guys off while Albon drives away? We did go from the back of the train to the front of the train with Albon, so for that part, it worked out. I mean, we made 3 passes. 3 passes in the pit lane. And here comes Porsche in for his stop. 2.782. Not a great stop there. That extra 1/10 of a second. Plus Albon dragging those guys up to him is going to bring him right out to the back of the train. But we are on the medium. They are all on the hard. I suspect that Porsche can make his way through and pass those guys. You can see Albon is holding them off. No, he's not. Ricciardo went by. Ricciardo went by, so we are second in the train. That's okay. We'll go right back to conserve again. On a higher mode and see if he can't squeeze by. There's one pass. We're past Vettel. And we get him to the inside. That's Tsunoda. Sainz has made a mistake and dropped back. And now it's just behind Ricciardo. Albon goes past Ricciardo. Porsche tried to back off Albon and Albon, Ricciardo exchanging positions again and again, but that's good for XP. Not quite back to full, but we did get the ERS back up a bit. Driving a more conservative race and seeing what our pace is like to really test the car has gone well. We have not pushed much at all, and you can see Albon now, just the difference of being on the medium versus the hard is enough to be the fastest in this train, because Ricciardo overtakes us with the DRS, but then we very easily overtake him, and Albon is spending a lot more time on the front, and you can see Porsche, without much effort, went forward. It was a little effort, but not much. There you go, having a look to the inside, and the move is complete. Checking in on the tire wear amongst the drivers: Verstappen, who leads the race, Leclerc, Sainz, Alonso, my 2 drivers, and Stroll are the ones who opted for the 2-stopper with the medium in the middle. Everybody else went for the hard compound. They're going to be out a little bit longer than we are on those hards. It would be nice if it was possible to drive away from these guys, but that's not happening as Porsche has been passed here by Tsunoda. That's the hard thing with being stuck in these little trains. We can see how easy it is that he's battling back with him to get back around him there. We are saving up a lot of fuel. We are conserving these tires for a little while, so we'll easily get into that run we need to be on the softs. And we'll be in position to try to undercut when the time comes, as these guys in this train besides us are all on the hard. So we will end up pitting before them this time and trying to use the undercut to emerge,
I think someone's run wide.
More than a second ahead. And I might swap it. I might take Porsche and pit first this time and have him push on that outlap so that Albon comes out maybe just behind him or just ahead. Doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter. I'm not concerned about that necessarily. But then so gaps to the leaders. Front 4, all within 4.5 seconds of each other. But then Bottas did fall off this time around. Sainz, with his issue and his penalty, is further back and will drop further once he pits again. And then Norris, Gasly, Alonso, Magnussen, Russell all close to one another. Ocon not that far behind them. And then our train's not that far back either. So we still have a chance at some cars ahead of us. Ocon in particular, or if anybody ahead there has an issue. And we see somebody going backwards. Another yellow flag in the sector. Tsunoda with a lockup. It was. Tsunoda drops to P17. And, huge gap behind. Guan Yu Zhou has caught the Aston Martins. And then Tsunoda just got himself bumped out of this train. I'm starting to wonder if that update that I mentioned, I think, might have come out. If we are, in fact, seeing a drop in pace, drop in performance on the compound as they degrade. Here's why I'm thinking that. Earlier, we were easily faster than Ricciardo. We were on the mediums, he's on the hards. Now, the mediums wear faster than the hards do, even though they pit a couple laps before us. And by the way, both of us moved ahead, and Norris did. How was Norris behind us? Did I miss something? Did he pit? Norris just pit, 99%. Vettel? They're on mediums. Interesting strategy. Okay. So they're going to go mediums to the end, you would think. 18 laps to go. Different strategies, okay. Comes Ricciardo again. Tsunoda fell back. Tsunoda, Norris, Vettel pit. Okay, so Vettel also pit. How close are we to Ocon now?
The tires aren't really coming down.
3 seconds. Still 3 seconds back. You're seeing bigger temperature situations as we're experiencing tire wear. And we were consistently faster than Ricciardo. Lately, he's been faster than us, though both of us are ahead of him now, so maybe not. But I'm wondering if that's because the mediums, as we're down to 40%, are losing pace, and the hards, which I'm guessing are going to be a bit better off at this point. 53, 45 actually only for Ricardo. Probably hold. They don't fall off as much pace as they degrade. Okay, it's time to start thinking about that pit. The downside here is that Pourchaire is behind. Nope, not anymore. Okay, this is perfect. I want you to attack and push. And Albin's just going to follow. Albin's going to take the free ride,
Look at
take the extra lap or so.
Lifting co-
As we're seeing the others on the mediums are making their pit stops now. See what they come out on though. Is anybody coming out on the soft, or are they all coming out on mediums? As in it's a little too early to run softs to the end? Nope. Verstappen. 89% for Verstappen. He's coming out on used softs. Pourchaire. Going to ride with Albin. Albin, who is still holding off Ricardo for now, has gotten within 2 seconds of Ocon, so he is getting closer in there. And we're seeing those on the hard compound opt to pit now as well, so we could be coming in. It looks like Ricardo is following us. Ricardo is following us. Ricardo is pitting at the same time. Let's hope we do not have a slow stop here to hold us up, as he is behind us
Gasly
on
has
pit
pitted
road.
for new option.
Oh no, no, no! Wow. So Ricardo gets us in the pit lane. Ricardo gets us in the pit lane, and we're going to come out behind. Ricardo's going to come out in front of those two, and we come out behind them after waiting. Ouch.
You can afford to drop
Ouch
back.
on that part. But the good news
Okay,
is
okay.
we still have spare fuel. We have fresh softs.
Leave co
And
increase, please.
what have they opted for? Ricardo's on the softs as well. Vettel is going to be vulnerable on much more used mediums compared to us. I think we could beat Vettel. Ricardo's going to be a hard sell, but we could maybe beat him.
And a new position.
We certainly are
just
going to
gained by
now try to
Williams.
save things for the later laps. Albin in particular, 5% better on the tire wear than his teammate. Both a spare lap worth of fuel. That's not a lot, but it's something. And Albin has that nice full ERS. Has had that for a long time. Downside is he comes out P17, Pourchaire P14. Pourchaire got around Ricardo, so Pourchaire is now leading this
There's
train.
an overtake.
Ocon into the pits. Ricardo now to the head of the train, so we can back off and not push. And let's see what happens with Ocon. Ocon's already exiting pit road. He is exiting pit road. Where does he come out at? Oh. Meanwhile, Stroll and Schumacher on the verge of being lapped here, and Verstappen, Perez, Leclerc, and Hamilton has gotten himself up into that front group, running P4. Bottas a ways off. Sainz, after serving his penalty, a ways back, but he's P6 still. And then we have a battle with Alonso, Gasly, Norris, Magnussen for P7, and Russell trying to chase them down from P11. Vettel with the lockup that leaves him out of this thing, so we've already got that P14, P15 now locked up. We don't have the ERS, and we don't have the ground. We're too far back. So it looks like this is going to be it for us. We're not far. We were not far off from very competitive, not far off from the points.
Second
And we
flag.
absolutely ran comfortably with the midfield teams today. Not just, wow, smart strategy. You held on to the back of the DRS train by pushing like crazy because they had that much better pace than you. That's how we made things happen last season. This season, that was the car able to keep up, and the drivers just staying smooth. So P14, P15, it's a good result. Could be better, but that was, again, a track that didn't suit our car very well with 4 slow speed corners. That's going to do it for this episode, though. I'm Decathlon Gamer. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one. Be safe out there. Bye for now.